as of
No,
late.
I've been struggling. I ran this morning.
I mean, but seriously, I said I
give
met
you
with
some kind of
teachers
deal. I did
today.
4 miles
Set up
at
a
an
schoolroom
8:15
today.
That's where I'm
Like
going.
everybody's meetings that they
I
have.
gotta stop halfway over.
You're very organized.
I'm not going to be organizing them every day at 10 o'clock for George. I don't
That's
like
slow
that.
for you, though.
And then they said they want them to be super professional about it, like they don't want the dogs barking and people carrying on.
All right.
So I went and set up the pool house schoolhouse.
All systems are good? All right.
I gotta put
Well, it is that time. We are at 2:30. I apologize. You'll have to bear with me with this mask. It's quite challenging to talk behind a mask, isn't it?
Yes.
But with that being said, since we're at 2:30, I'd like to welcome everybody to the scheduled August 19th work session, the town of Abingdon. Also like to note that, as always, the citizens will have an opportunity to speak during the public comments section of the agenda. At that time, if there are any speakers, if you'll please come to the podium, give us your address and full name, and address the council. All that being said, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens.
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
Aye.
Ms. Pillion.
Aye.
Ms. Quetch.
Aye.
And Mayor Webb.
Aye. Or should I say here?
Here.
Here.
Everyone's here.
I think we're all here though. Yeah,
Okay.
we're good.
Present.
We're good. And that does constitute a quorum, so we're good. All right. Moving right along to the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as it is?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
All right, motion to approve the agenda as is by Mr. Owens. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Anderson. Any discussion? Yeah, hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens.
Here.
Mr. Anderson.
Aye.
Ms. Pillion.
Here.
Aye.
Whatever.
Y'all got them switched up.
Yeah, we got to switch up. I think that's an aye.
Aye.
Ms. Quetch. And Mayor Webb.
Aye. All right. Moving right along to the public comments section. Do we have anybody signed up for public comments? Nobody signed up for public comments. All right. Well, we're going to move right through. We have no petitions or public hearings, no proclamations, so we're on to new business. Consideration of a request from the Virginia Department of Transportation to deviate from Section 30-32B and Section 30-34 of the Town of Code noise regulations for intersection improvements at West Main Street and Jonesboro Road. And that is probably going to fall on Jimmy Moran.
Yeah, I find out if John's down there. He might have actually taken off.
If we-
But he said he was going to come to the work session, so he might
Here
be
he
doing
comes.
something.
If-
Oh, is he there? Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because I can do a
Hey,
half job of what this. He's
This
so
was
technical
perfect.
when he comes in and is,
he is
you
here.
know.
We're ready for it.
John,
Just-
you are on the hot seat.
We went faster.
What am I talking about?
We were talking about the,
Oh, be that request.
yeah.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Good afternoon. Yeah, the VDOT request is for the project, Smart Scale project, that's under design at West Main Street and Jonesboro Road. They, in doing the work that we're anticipating for the project, they are thinking that the work is better suited to be done at night. So in accordance with town ordinance, they need to make an official request to the town manager to do the work at night. Had a conversation with Jimmy. It is by far the safest and most efficient way to do the work. We do recommend that they be allowed to do the work at night. I did respond to VDOT and told them that we would request another formal written application for a variance to the ordinance at the time that the work is actually going to be done, sometime after the award of the contract, which is probably like 2 years away. But they do need something at this time to start or continue their design process to put it into the specifications that the work will be done at night. So that's a quick and dirty.
Hey, John, could you
Yeah.
just update the council on what is the work that's actually being done? Because I don't think we've ever formally presented this, and we have new council members. I know some of
Sure.
the council members were familiar with it when you approached me about that. but-
Sure. That intersection there, I'm sure all of you are very familiar with the intersection. It gets a lot of traffic. The primary movements are northbound Jonesboro Road, turning right onto Main Street, and westbound Main Street traffic turning onto Jonesboro Road. It's that link between exit 14 and Route 19. A lot of traffic. That's the predominant movement. Obviously, years past, Main Street and Route 11 heading out toward Bristol was probably the primary traffic movement. So this project's going to realign the intersection, not a great deal, but they're going to pull the current right turn lane on Jonesboro Road that turns onto Main Street, going to pull it in closer, control it with the signal, instead of right now it's kind of a free flow yield turn. They're going to control it with the signal, but give more time to that movement and to the Jonesboro Road movement with the signal timing. So if I'm describing this well enough, to actually make those movements the predominant movements at the expense, if you will, of traffic coming from the Bristol side toward Abingdon, because that is the lesser traffic movement currently. So it's going to actually tighten up that intersection a little bit, do some changes to the signal heads. Going to close off that little median opening on Main Street that is a nightmare from a traffic engineering and safety standpoint. Going to close that off.
And just to clarify, that's the one that goes into the gas station parking lot there. I don't know if y'all.
Yeah.
It's a little tiny slit. In
It's a turn lane within a turn lane, which is
Yeah,
not really
yeah.
good engineering.
Yeah, the median opening, you know, in 40 years ago, with the traffic we had, it's not a big deal. With the traffic we have now, it's a safety concern, so they're going to close that off. We have looked at it and done some counts during the day, vehicles entering and exiting the Exxon property. It will have some impact on vehicles getting in there, minor impact. Most of the vehicles accessing the Exxon property either come from Jonesboro Road side or they enter in from the entrance from eastbound Main Street traffic. So there will be a little bit of impact there. So that's basically the scope of work, but there is a lot of signal work, underground conduit, and cable work. But again, to do that work during the day would be a nightmare and a safety issue. So the VDOT is requesting that we allow them to do the work at night. And that is certainly my recommendation. My strong recommendation is that we allow them to do that. If you have any other questions, I'd be glad to try to address them.
Not really any residents around that.
Well, he said there was a few neighborhoods over there.
There's a
as well.
couple houses, individual houses on the north
On the
side
bank
of Main
side
Street.
there.
Yes, yeah, but there's not many. So,
Nothing like what was the case over at 19, where I went ahead and just approved that because there's really no residential areas, at least in the vicinity where they're doing the work, and it was for a much shorter period of time. This one being, there's a few homes, residential homes, and it's a much longer duration. I just wanted to make sure that council was comfortable for that before we approved it.
How long's the duration approximately?
this one,
A couple weeks, wasn't it?
I think it's going to be 6 weeks was the expected duration. So it's an extended period of time, but it's I mean, if this makes it any more palatable, we had exit 14 going for 2.5 years out there with a whole lot of night work, and it's I'm probably biased from being on the construction side, but the advantages far outweigh the disturbances, and we can certainly give those residences that are in close proximity of the project, give them advance notice, explain to them clearly why we're doing it at night, doing the work at night, and hopefully we can make some kind of accommodations or at least let them understand why we're doing it.
Do we vote on that today?
Yeah, so I think, John, you're looking for action from us, right, to go ahead and give approval for this thing to.
Well, Jimmy, is it your preference?
Yeah, I prefer it to just be a director or
Okay.
motion made.
That way we can
to
go
direct
ahead and
us
get
to
it.
approve
Okay.
that VDOT request.
All right.
So that would make me feel comfortable, because that way, I want everybody to know about it, because if you might get questions from residents, you know, even though it is, I guess, a period of time away from.
Yeah, and I think,
you know.
and I think to add to what Jimmy's saying, when this project does start eventually, and we do request a formal, request from them for the variance, you know, there may be different, you know, whether I'm still here, whether the council members as we
Sure.
see them now are still here, the
Yeah.
personalities, faces could change. If we
Sure.
have this documented in
Yes.
an action, then that's something that the town and
Right.
VDOT can fall back on. I think it'd be helpful.
Good, fair enough. All right, so having said all that, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept this.
All right, motion for Mr. Anderson to go ahead and approve VDOT's, I guess, request for deviation from the regular noise ordinance. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second by Ms. Pillion. Any discussion? Hearing none, Kim, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Owens,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Miss Pillion,
Aye.
Miss Quetch,
Aye.
and Mayor Webb.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
All right, moving right along to resolutions. We have a resolution to rescind a resolution determining property located at 130 Wall Street, commonly known as the Abingdon Mercantile, for redevelopment pursuant to section 36-55.30, colon 2.b, Code of Virginia 1950 as amended. Looks like we're looking for Mr. Bell.
Yes, sir. As you recall, we talked about this at the last council meeting to designate this particular property under VHDA. We were in communication. One of our staff members was heavily in communication with them, she's throwing me under the bus, so I guess I'll leave her name out of it. They weren't happy with the language that we had passed and wanted it to be under the different subsection of this statute, if you recall. And Dr. Owens had asked some questions about this particular thing of designating an area as opposed to designating a project. VHDA makes a separate distinction between mixed use and mixed income, and B, which of course we had done what we had been requested, we thought, to do by the property owner in VHDA. Turns out that's not what they wanted. They wanted it to be an area designated, and there were some questions raised about designating an entire area, and their response was that we could designate an area, but the area just be that particular property. But in researching it further, it appears that the statute says that the governing body of the city or county can designate an area, and we are neither of those things. So we invited them to contact the county, and they have since done that, and we understand that they're going to get assistance from the county Board of Supervisors, and so we should rescind this resolution that nobody wants from us.
Okay. All right.
Does that make sense?
Any questions, guys? Do we all understand kind of where we're going with that? All right. Fair enough.
So this won't come back to us exactly, it'll just go through the county then?
Right, and I think technically the way it would work and sort of in planning and generally would be if the county designated, you know, from whatever street to whatever street as a particular area, then we could then vote on particular projects that would be mixed income projects under that subsection B, but the county would have to designate the area first, and then we would act within the area, but it's up to the county to designate the area or not.
Any other questions? All right. So I assume we need to take action on this.
Yes, sir.
Do I have a motion to rescind that resolution?
I'll make a motion to rescind the resolution.
All right, I've got a motion to rescind that resolution from Mr. Owens. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
A second by Vice Mayor Quetch. Any discussion, guys? Hearing none. Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson,
Aye.
Miss Pillion,
Aye.
Miss Quetch,
Aye.
and Mayor Webb.
Aye. Thank you. Thanks, Kim. All right, moving right along to unfinished business. We have a continued discussion from the August 3rd, if you remember, 2020 regular scheduled council meeting about the proposed zoning text amendment, Part 2 of the code, Appendix B, zoning ordinance, Article 21. on the sign ordinance, I believe. Mr. Boswell.
Thank you, Mayor Webb, Honorable Council. This is really just an opportunity to give the public another opportunity to come in and make any comments on the changes, specifically because it's not just a section change, it's a total amendment to Article 21. It's the entire article. And to answer any questions that the council may have of me pertaining to the amendment.
All right. So I guess we heard this at the last meeting, and anybody have any specific questions for Mr. Boswell?
I do not.
None specifically?
No.
All right, and I think this is really just a healthy discussion. I don't think we have to really take any sort of action since it's already had first reading at the last meeting. Okay.
That's my third time hearing it.
Well, I think I'm satisfied. It sounded very good to me.
You're cool with
So
it.
I guess we'll just keep moving right along.
I appreciate that, Mayor Webb. Thank you very much.
Thank
If you-
you.
Again, if you do have any questions later on, please just let me know. Sure.
Thanks,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Boswell. All right, moving right along to miscellaneous business and communications from the town manager. First, we're gonna talk about discussion regarding yard sale permits.
Yes. I would like to discuss the section of the code. I believe Kim made copies of it, and they all have it, and I asked her to highlight an area in the code that references the fee. And really what I'm proposing to do, and asking for the council's direction on this, is that we do have a process in place for yard sale permits. And people might ask, well, why do we do yard sale permits? Well, predominantly this has happened over the years in many communities, not just us, because you have perpetual yard sales that decide to do, a sale every weekend, and they become a nuisance, and neighboring property owners don't like it. And also, there's actually some interesting IRS regulations regarding how many yard sales you get. Well, we don't get involved in that because we're not the IRS, but it's just a way to control the amount of yard sales that occur every year. And I've always found that if you have a fee attached to this permit, you get less compliance because people are figuring, well, I put a sign up, why do I got to get a permit? I already got to maybe put something, well, people used to put it in the newspaper. Now they probably just put it on Facebook or something like that. And so ultimately, my hope is to get full compliance on this and not to collect the fee. The amount of money that we collect, it probably costs us that much money just to actually process the $3 charge. But if my goal is full compliance to get people and say, look, it doesn't cost anything, just get the permit, we can get, reach a goal closer to full compliance. And it just takes that onerous, $3 charge off the resident. And this is, especially come up now with us, quote, we're not really canceling that. Well, I mean, we are technically canceling the townwide yard sale, but we're not prohibiting anybody to have a yard sale. A lot of residents are still going to have the yard sale. They've been in communication with Tanya. We went ahead and told them they didn't have to submit the fee because we didn't require that when we did the event last year. So I'm just going to ask the council if they're comfortable with me just eliminating the fee and just revising the ordinance to just remove the fee, just require them to get a permit. So that way we can encourage people to get the permits and not have to pay a $3 fee, which, is very minuscule. So that's really all I wanted to do, is just get the council to agree to, or direct me to prepare an ordinance, or ask Cam to prepare an ordinance revising this section of the code, just to remove the fee. And I mean, is there any issues or question? I mean, we're not making a lot of money off this, so it's not like we don't really have full compliance anyways, and we're not going to get full compliance. Let's just face it. I mean, we're not going to send, court enforcement out and start asking every yard sale if they have a permit. But we do need, to encourage people to get the permit. And a lot of people do want to follow the rules. They do ask. And we'd like to be able to tell them, here's the permit. You can go online and fill it out, but there's no $3 fee attached. And they can do it all electronically if they do it that way. They don't even have to come in. They could just email the permit without having to send the payment. So.
Where did the $3 come from? Is there a resolution somewhere that says $3?
Mr. Bell, I don't know why it was there. It's in the code. It says a fee.
It just says the council will establish a fee.
Establish a
from
fee.
time to
You're
time.
right, and we couldn't find that fee, I believe.
Yeah.
So you're right. The $3 portion isn't in there.
This is a 1985.
It
I
does
was gonna
establish.
say, my suggestion was gonna be if you wanted to do that, instead of having to
Just
actually amend the
put a fee of
ordinance,
0?
just say resolve the fee of 0 for now and then go from there.
Okay. Well, one thing that I would like to do is, and this is something I've been talking to Kim about, we don't really have a single, well, we do have something, but I can't find, you had printed me out one time. But I thought we found something that said, here are all the fees for the various, permits and things like that. Sometimes they're scattered in different sections of the code. And so if somebody wants to know, or if a council member wants to know, or finance staff, what are the fees, we really need to come up with a centralized schedule of fees. And I'd like to actually work towards doing that. So, I do like that idea, actually, Cam. Maybe we just establish the fee of 0. But since we don't know where that fee is, because this was passed in '85, it could have been done by a resolution, it could have been an ordinance that wasn't codified. Maybe we could just ask the council to make a motion right now, just to go ahead and establish that we don't want to charge a fee, and then that gives me enough authority to not charge them, and then we could just incorporate that into a future schedule. Are you comfortable with that, Cam?
Yeah, I think that.
Okay.
That would be way easier
No,
than
that's
having
a quicker way of
first
doing
and
it.
second reading
You're right.
all that,
And
yeah.
that way, if we do decide later on to establish a fee, which probably won't, we can at least include that in the ordinance. So, okay, well, then we can resolve this right now then.
Sure.
Let's get down to business. Okay.
So I take it we're looking for a motion, and Cam, you'll have to help me with the wording are we rescinding the fee, or are we just establishing?
No,
the fee
I would
at
say
0,
that, yeah,
or-
establishing the fee at $0.
Just a motion to establish the fee for the yard sale permits as $0, and then that's all I think I need right now.
Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, if you guys are comfortable, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
All right, got a motion by Ms. Pillion to establish that fee at $0 for the yard sale permits. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, second by Mr. Anderson. Any discussion? Hearing none. Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens.
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
Aye.
Ms. Pilligan.
Aye.
Ms. Quetch.
Aye.
And Mayor Webb.
Aye. Thank you for bringing that to
Good.
our
Yeah.
attention. It's a great
Anything
idea.
I do to help the yard sale residents of this community, I want to bring to your attention.
I'm not all about.
Now, the prices will correspondingly decrease at yard
Oh, yeah.
sales because we've removed this burden
That's it.
from them.
That's it. Lots of deals to be had at yard sales, right? All right, moving right along to the Coombs Rec Center reopening plan. Mr. Moran?
Yes, we've been having considerable discussion about this topic internally with our staff over the last couple weeks, and we had a healthy discussion this morning with the Finance Committee. And Jennifer and Militia have put together a plan, to reopen the facility. There are still some unknowns as far as the timeline is concerned on the rehiring of certain positions, whether some of them are going to be full-time, some of them are going to be part-time. I just want to let everybody know that we are working towards the goal of reopening the facility in the very near future. We're trying to come up with a plan to offer a basic level of service. We understand that there are going to be some people who still want to use the gymnasium, the track, some of the fitness equipment. We want to try to provide that basic level of service, but we need to come up with a plan to do that. I think we've got a pretty good idea what we need to do. You might have noticed that we even tried hiring, or we actually have advertised a position already, and we have interviewed for a position, and that was the first position that we wanted to bring on board prior to the rest of the employees being hired. So we're in a position very closely to offer that position to one of the candidates, and then successively hire other positions. We're just very mindful of the town's finances and also the safety measures that we need to take. But we did have, even though we are very conscious, being very budget conscious right now, we did have a very good month as it pertains to meals taxes, and we're hoping by the end of this month the town's revenue situation will be, at least on that end, will be very favorable. We are obviously looking at other areas that we've cut, and then we still maintain some cuts in some areas, and we also have put off some unnecessary purchases through the end of the year. So I like to say that soon we'll be in a position to maybe announce something more formally, but just wanted to provide that update to the council and let you know that we're close. I don't want to put a date out there, because if I do and then we have a setback maybe with hiring, or maybe there's a facility issue or something like that. But we are moving very close to making that a reality. So if anybody has any questions, be happy to answer anything on that. Okay.
Do we have a time schedule in mind?
I think we could probably talk about that. I don't think there's anything that's overly drastic. I think, are we doing, why don't you come up here and explain that? Because I can't remember what the exact time, if it was 7 to 7 or.
Are you talking about hours?
I think she was
No,
talking
I'm talking about like when, do we have a date that we're working toward?
Oh, no, I didn't want to state that right now because I
Right.
didn't want to get, if we have a drawback or if we have like a hiring issue, because, some of these are new positions. We're going to, hopeful that we think, there was a double-edged sword here with the unemployment, with the extra unemployment benefits. There were challenges with a lot of businesses getting people to come back to work. And so, I know right now that some of those additional benefits have expired. We do know that there's some people, regardless of that, want to come back to work, but that was, I think, a challenge as well when we were if we would have tried to open the facility earlier. But right now, I don't want to give a hard date right now to the public because I just don't know if it's going to change, but we're working very closely with the staff to try to get it open soon. As far as time's concerned, we can just say, I think, was it 7 to 7? Is that what we're doing? If the proposal was going to be 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay. And then the facility was going to be open as our proposal is 6 of the 7 days, because we were still going to be closed on Sunday, because we've been closed on Sunday through the summer. That was a change that we made last year, I think, actually, during the summer months. You come up here. You can if you want to. You came to the meeting. You might as well
Come on,
officially go on the record. And that was because, based on feedback from CRC management, that we had such little use of the facility on a Sunday during the summer, it just didn't make sense to staff it.
Now, the previous employees, do they have first dibs on the job to be rehired?
So we did go through a restructure with the facility because we have cut back on the amount of staff that will return as far as our full-time and our part-time. So those positions, because they have changed, it will be a position that has to be interviewed for. So that is open to, from my understanding, the way we did that, because it is not coming back into the same job so those positions will be positions.
They'll all be new hires.
They'll be interviewed.
And some of them will be employees that we previously had before. Based on their experience and qualifications, some of them probably won't want to apply. Maybe they found other employment. Some of them probably have as well. So, and because we have less positions available, we couldn't promise certain employees jobs. We couldn't promise everybody a job because we're not going to have full staff when we return.
Correct. So we couldn't give, we eliminated 2 of 4, custodial positions. So you can't pick and choose. It would have to be definitely something. And we did restructure those, meaning that we revamped job duties and different areas that they'll cover. So it does change the job drastically. So it is something that they would all have to interview for, and based on qualifications and
Now, what's the position that you said you were ready to hire someone?
The first position that we posted was the office manager position, and that we've already interviewed for with Ms. Knight, the HR administrator, and we have narrowed that down to a couple of candidates and are moving closer to getting that job filled. But as Mr. Moraney said, we would do, when we open Ms. Pilliam, we will have a phased opening that will have reduced hours, and because we'll have reduced staff, but we are working very closely with the finance department and Mr. Moraney to have something that is workable both for the staff and the community and the best interest of recreation.
I get asked daily from people in the community, and so that's why I'm asking questions. Just I feel like people are eager and excited, and
Absolutely.
I think you all have made great changes that are going to make everything even better than it was before, and people are going to really enjoy it. So.
Right. And the restructure is going to be, as we said, it will be different with the staff, but it will be something that is still providing a great quality of service to the community. So we're excited.
Well, thank you guys for all your hard work. I know you and Felicia have put a ton of effort into revamping the facility and getting things in order, so
And
thanks
we
for
look
that
forward
hard
to
work.
having you guys come up and take a look, and for the community to see as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else have any questions specifically about the Coombs Center? Excellent. Well, I'm glad to hear we've got a plan in motion, and I can add to that. At Finance Committee earlier today, we had a very, very lengthy and healthy discussion about the mechanics of getting this thing back online. And there were a lot of things that were brought to my attention that I hadn't thought about before. You know, with, because Derek wanted it open yesterday, you know what I mean? But having said that, one of the things I didn't consider is that you have to have it open enough hours to satisfy all of the members that are paying fees for a service. You know, you have to have a specific level of service to be able to justify reopening. So we're diligently working towards that, and as Ms. Pillion said, excited. Everybody's excited to get it back online. All right, next up is Police Operations Update. Chief, you are in the hot seat.
Almost like in the court. Mayor Webb, council members. Mr. Morani's request, and I was glad to do so. I get to come up about quarterly and talk to you all a little bit about what's going on at the police department. I know we're at the end of the agenda here, so I won't take too long. Just a brief summary of some of the things. And I would encourage you, if you have any questions, just reach out and contact me. I know there's lots of stuff in our legislation going on right now, lots of stuff about police and how we operate. So if you're sitting at home and you want to know what you're doing in Abingdon, what we're doing, give me a call. I'd love for you all to call or come down and visit. One day I'm going to get you all in the car and have you do a ride along at some point, probably after COVID, but at some point we'll get you in the car and you can see Abingdon at night with one of our patrol officers. They would love to have you. I would love to have you. So for our new council members, I wanted to throw in a little bit of agency demographics, you know, who we are, what we're made of. Right now we have 25 sworn officers. We got 2 vacant positions, so we're allocated 27. But we're in the hiring process right now, which takes a little while because we do a full application, we do a written test, we do a physical agility test. We're running on the creeper trail. We're doing a huge background investigation, and then we do panel interviews, and finally a chief interview. So it takes a while to go through all those steps and hire somebody on. I think Mr. Morani's gotten a kick so far out of my background investigations. They're pretty extensive. Because if we let one bad apple into our agency, then we're in trouble. Because one person represents us all, and all of our folks know that. So we have 2 civilian staff. We're allocated 3. We're in the process of hiring 1 to replace Ms. Knight, who has came up here for HR. I actually put her on the interview panel to replace her position, so she's still in HR. Trying to tell you guys about this, I went through and grabbed some of the files and looked at the education experience, and I put their highest level of education. And as you can see, 75% of our officers have a college degree, which is pretty fantastic for a police agency to have that well-educated officers. There's still officers continuing their education now. I spoke to a couple that were telling me about their upcoming classes, and we had one finish his online degree, his bachelor's degree, last week. So that was pretty exciting to have that happen. Last week, we also got a visit from Virginia Organizing, and one of the questions they asked of me was, do our officers come, police, and then just go home? And I was thinking about that question, and it kind of stuck in my back of my mind. I was like, no, we actually do a lot in the community. We participate in the community. We're family oriented, and as you can see, you know, we have a couple youth coaches. We got a couple college and high school soccer coaches, 3 in the National Guard, 2 life-saving crew members. One part of the creation of the Swift Water Rescue Team. The other is a captain on the crew. A couple of fire department members. They chose the police full-time career though, which I don't want to get into that back and forth between police and fire, but you know, they were on the right track, I think, with police. We got 1 Boy Scout leader. a few church volunteers, and one small business owner owns a knife company. And if you haven't seen his creations, they're spectacular. So that's kind of a summary of us. Again, if you want to come meet us, come on by the police department. So training is always important for us. We wear many hats. We do a lot of different things. We got to stay prepared. The state minimum requirement's 40 hours every 2 years, which is not even close to enough training that we actually need. So we do a lot more than that. So far in the last 2 months, now this report's just the last 2 months, we've had 11 officers attend the use of force and firearms training. You have to be proficient at both of those. 16 officers did a 4-hour legal updates class. You know, July 1 brought us a lot of new laws, a lot of new changes. The Commonwealth Attorney, Josh Cumbo, was gracious enough to utilize the Coombs Center. Jennifer opened it up for us so that we could have our social distancing. I have to make the comment, I told him earlier that the place is so clean, you want to take your shoes off before you go into the center, so you don't get that floor dirty again. But it was Academy sponsored as well, so we got career development hours for that. I can't thank Josh Cumbo enough and his assistant Elizabeth Bruzzo for coming in and getting us up to speed on some of the new changes. A couple officers took a new implicit bias class, which was good. We're going to roll that out for everybody. It's an online class brought forth by the Virginia Chiefs of Police Association. It was really good, so we're going to require that everybody takes that. So if anybody gets quarantined, I can tell you what they'll be doing while they're quarantined. We had one officer do a cultural diversity class, an online class, and then we had one officer teach. Now, we have 9 academy instructors in our agency, and these are certified through DCJS, and we go down to the academy and we teach various different topics, from driving to firearms to crime scenes. So we like to have instructors at our agency because you don't really know a topic unless you can teach it. So we want to be able to go down and teach other officers the latest trends, and that keeps us up to date as well. But the one officer that went down to teach, she taught on report writing, which is critical. It's something that we kind of glance over at times, but it's very important. So skipping on through, we're going to special events and community policing. June 6th, my first day as acting chief, we did the prayer vigil at the farmer's market. It went off with 0 incidents. We even got a handwritten thank you note from a participant that thanked us for stopping traffic, helping them across the street, helping with traffic on Rimsburg. Then on July 3rd, the Marion Police Department requested that several officers come up and help them with an event, with a protest. So we did so, and we didn't have any issues there as well. One officer got a little sunburn, but that was it. And interesting is, those familiar with United Way, they do a career expo for the 7th graders every year at the fairgrounds. Well, because of COVID, they're not allowed to do that, so they decided to do an all virtual career fair for all regional 7th graders. So they did it, they filmed us, so we came down and they filmed a few interviews, and we did a few action shots, some room clearing stuff. We did some a traffic stop where the offender ran. So pretty excited what they put together. Hopefully they can edit pretty good and take out a few things and I don't know, put some stuff in the background for us. But we had a good time with that. We had several officers participate in that. They were pretty excited about it. We do have to do an update on COVID-19. We are taking extremely serious at our agency. All of my officers are doing a fantastic job with temperature checking, trying to keep it out of our agency as much as they can. They know if it gets in the agency and we got to quarantine a lot of officers, we could be in trouble real quick. So they're being transparent. They're being open with me. They're really taking it serious. Good open communication, following along with the travel policy that Mr. Morani put forth. And doing everything they can. The Seatac Center that I talked to you about, I think at one of the last council meetings, we opened that on July 1. We've been operating smoothly so far, knock on wood. We've had 19 consumers this time. Last year they had 15, so we are up in the numbers a little bit. New officer Haley Rogers and Kayla Richardson are assigned to that center, and they're doing fantastic work. So then July 1 also brought us the community policing data collection. So this was codified, and it started July 1. And basically, we collect particular information on every motor vehicle stop we make. I think there was some issues with understanding. Virginia State Police handles this operation, and they kind of guide us on what information that they want, nothing more or nothing less. So the way they interpreted the code, it was just the drivers of motor vehicles that we send that information in. And some of my officers were asking if they can send more information. You know, one of the indicators here is whether or not the vehicle was searched. And one of my officers said, well, why can't we send if they give consent or if we got a search warrant or other details? And unfortunately, it's only this particular information. So we rolled that out as required, and we're gathering that data now to send in on a quarterly basis. They also want any complaints about excessive force to be sent in on a yearly basis if we have one of those. So that's a pretty big change for our officers. So if you hear somebody saying, well, when I'll stop by the officer, I got a warning, but they collected all this information, that's kind of the basis behind that. The radio project, you all allocated some funding for a new radio system. I've been working closely with IT department, CJ McLaughlin, on looking at all the different options that we have. You can't just call somebody up and say, I need a better radio. There's different companies, there's different products, there's different frequencies, bands. It's quite extensive. So we're trying to look through every single option that we can find, and then bringing them together and then comparing them all to see what the best solution for us would be. We've also been in conversations with the sheriff and let him know what we were doing because we used their dispatch and some of the system and the infrastructure that they already have in place. So that's been moving along. It's slow, but there's a lot of information out there to put together. And then finally, I'll end with a few statistics because I do like statistics, especially traffic statistics. John Dew probably gets really annoyed at my traffic statistics. But, as you know, traffic is an issue in Abingdon. John Dew helps tremendously with that. So I was thankful that you decided to do night for construction work. I can only imagine that intersection during the daytime. But for traffic crashes, we had 46 traffic crashes in the 2-month period. And you can see we made 239 traffic stops. That's stopping a lot of cars. That's putting some visibility out there. Whether or not it affects and reducing traffic crashes, it's hit or miss sometimes on that. So we had a total of 606 calls for service. 512 are just general, and I've kind of summarized a few of those categories so you know what they are. And we had 94 criminal complaints, so they're calls for service, you know, paper service, if they go arrest somebody, larceny calls, assault calls, that nature. And we had 37 arrests for the 2-month period.
What about stabbing?
Excuse me?
What about stabbing?
Well, that happened in August, so that's next month.
Next quarter.
But I can tell you there'll be one on the report for that. And on the back, I added an organization chart. If you're unfamiliar with what our overall layout of the agency is, that'll give you a brief graphic representation of our makeup to include where I'm at and how it flows down. So, any questions?
It's great info.
Just
Thank
a
you
little
for your-
summary. If you want to know anything else on the next one, just let me know. I'll add it in there happily.
Thank you.
Well, thank
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
That was excellent. All right. Moving right along to council member reports. Council members, do we have any reports that anybody would like to give? Nope. All right. If we have no council member reports, we do have a closed session that is scheduled to discuss, as permitted by Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A3 of potential disposition of publicly held real property where the discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the town's bargaining position. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
I'd make a motion that we go into closed session.
right. Motion by Vice Mayor Quetch. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Pillion.
That motion being pursuant to the code section that you read off.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
That motion was pursuant to the code section that I read off by Vice Mayor Quetch, and I got a second by Ms. Pillion. Any discussion, council? Hearing none, Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens?
Aye.
Mr. Anderson?
Aye.
Ms. Pillion?
Aye.
Ms. Quetch?
Aye.
And Mayor Witt.
Aye. We staying in this room?
We're gonna
or-
stay in this room, yeah, so, except for John Duke, he's gonna stay.
John, you're in the hot seat.
Yeah.
This is where you get to read here.
A minute. Use my big one.
The certification?
Mhm.
All right. All right. So, I guess I need a motion to come out of closed session.
I make a motion, we come out of closed session.
All right, got a motion by Mr. Owens. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Quetch.
The motion being that we go back into open session.
Yes, the motion being we'll go back into open session. Thank you, Kim. Appreciate that. And Kim, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Owens.
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
Aye.
Ms. Pillion.
Aye.
Ms. Quetch.
Aye.
And Mayor Webb.
Aye. And now we need to do our certification.
I move that the town certify that in the closed session just concluded, nothing was discussed except the matter or matters one, specifically identified in the motion to convene in closed session, and two, lawfully permitted to be discussed under the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act cited in that motion.
All right, we have a motion to certify. Do I need a second? No? Okay.
Mr. Owens, do you so certify?
I so certify.
Mr. Anderson, do you so certify?
I so certify.
Ms. Pillion, do you so certify?
I so certify.
Ms. Quetch?
I so certify.
Mayor Webb.
I so certify. All right, did we miss anything on the agenda? Jimmy?
I don't have anything else, no.
All right. Hearing nothing else, the meeting is adjourned. All right.
Thank you
We
so
made
much.
it.
Thank you.
Hey, Chief.